Competition is not the only basis of protection to the consumer, but is the incentive to progress. In today's episode, we are thrilled to bring an exclusive chat with a visionary who's revolutionizing the way we eat and the way we live. The man and the mastermind behind MaxFit Meals and MaxFit Market Stores. With over 2 decades of experience under his belt, he has been on the forefront of the retail industry, dedicating his career to impeccable customer service and unwavering commitment to quality. He's a pioneer in the health and food sector, creating chef-curated, high-flavor profile meals that don't just nourish your body, but also delight your taste buds. At MaxFit Meals, it's all about using the freshest, best quality ingredients to craft the meals and sauces from scratch. And let's not forget the state-of-the-art sealing technology that ensure your food stays fresh, whether you pick it up at one of the retail stores in Salinas or Monterey, or have it delivered right in front of your doorstep. His team believes in more than just selling meals. They're passionate about fostering a community dedicated to better living through better eating. Today, we'll peel back the layers of a fascinating journey, exploring the challenges and the triumphs of building the health-focused empire, and get an insider's look at the innovation driving MaxFit's growth. Stay tuned as we dive into the conversation with someone who is a true titan in the industry and discover the secrets behind 2 decades of thriving success in the ever-evolving world of health and wellness. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Kris Spencer.
So upbringing, I mean, that's a real long story, as I'm sure it is with everybody, but quite frankly, mine was pretty chaotic. I've discussed this on other podcasts, and my mom doesn't really care for some of the stuff I have to say, but I do believe it is kind of like critical to my growth as a human being and just the stuff that, like, you know, I'm no different. We all go through struggles, but so my father was an alcoholic. He used to drink anywhere from, 12-pack at work and finish off another 12-pack when he got home. So we really didn't have much of a relationship. My mother is a very, probably more similar to, well, I have both of their characteristics, but unfortunately I didn't know my father really that well because he was intoxicated. So I never got to see the real version of him. But knowing his life story, I think he was a pretty unique dude. And I think we had a lot of like that, energy, the creativity. I do think he had like some ADD, which we'll go into. I definitely was ADHD. I was diagnosed with ADHD early on, when that stuff was availing itself and getting diagnosed early in the 80s, whatnot. I do think he had a severe case of that, but in the case, a lot of people that have ADHD or ADD, I think there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of creativity, and he was a really gutsy guy, built a boat in when he was going to San Jose State and was going to sail around the world. So he was like an idea man. He was a visionary, and unfortunately, I'm a big believer in full ownership. So he chose. I know it's not a popular opinion, it's disease, whatever, and I think that there's an element of that, but at the end of the day, we choose to have children. We choose to raise, engage in marriage and starting a family. So it was his choice, but, I didn't know him. So I do, looking back, have respect for him. So continue on with the story. It was chaotic. My mother is a real estate agent. She's very like a type A person, driven, top producer in Santa Cruz County for many years, but so you had this dichotomy and there was a lot of tension. Some pretty extreme fighting, like doors being broken off hinges, sitting down with my sister and I eating a meal, and there were obviously some argument going on behind the scenes of, being children we weren't privileged to, and then like a plate getting thrown at like my dad's head and my mom storming off and my dad chasing her down the hall. So chaotic, a lot of times like daydreaming, like I said, there's an element of ADHD, but there's also an element of how can you study and be successful when you have that kind of home life? Yeah. But I'll take, my responsibility for, not paying attention in school. And there's a lot of daydreaming that went on. And a lot of times just skateboarding, escapism became like the majority of time that I spent was just primarily escapism and not growing academically or whatnot. So
Yeah, it's so funny, man, because we relate so well to like when it comes to like say your story, and even with it in the schooling, I neglected it so much.
sure.
And it's almost like I don't want to say I regret neglecting schooling because now it's like I am religious when it comes to saying my education or pursuing knowledge. So it's funny back in the day when my parents would tell me like you need to go get off the video games and get in on the books. And I was like, why am I going to pick up a book? Like, what's the purpose of a book? Like, I'm not going to get no fulfillment or meaning out of it. And then now it's like endless.
Yeah, I think you probably, a light bulb went off in your head and you started seeing the why of life.
Yes.
So, you could definitely not discount a lot of people in this world. There's a few websites on different social media platforms that have like your classmates, groups of former classmates, and there's an element of me as shame. First and foremost, when I get on there, shame because I was a terrible student. I don't know how bad you were, but I would just wiggle the desk, the hinges off the desk, and the bolts would be falling out. I just staring out the window, daydreaming about not being there 99% of the time. So I do see that, but then I get introduced to people that I held at a much higher status than me because they got better grades, and we're a lot more focused on school. And then like, it's not for nothing. I'm not saying I'm better or worse, but you can see my trajectory like after a certain period of time just like bolted off. Yes. Whereas they probably, which unfortunately some people get a college degree or bachelor's or master's or whatever they go to, they think that's a pinnacle of their success, and they get a job and they fall into mediocrity. Whereas I didn't have any of that to fall back on. So I was like, in a sense, burned the boats at the beach, and I had no choice to go back. There was no like mediocre job for me. I couldn't go get any career. I couldn't build off of education. I had to like create something from nothing and battle it through. So I think that at the end of the day, it was a blessing, and I think that's the reason we're here discussing this stuff and the struggle along the way. But yeah, it was going back to the original question. It was chaotic. It is what it is, and I'm in a sense I'm happy, that to have gone through that, because I do appreciate like it gives you an empathy for, how life is, how compassion for others that are struggling, and it also it makes me more hyper aware, like as a father now and a business owner, that I cannot like take substances that make me not present aware, because I know the repercussions of not of being that individual as a parent. And I will live like every cell in my body not to be that person. You know what I'm saying?
And that's why it's so important to have parents, because they kind of teach you of what to be and what not to be.
Sure.
And do you remember the specific age where you realized, I don't want to have that normal life, I want to do something extraordinary?
It was, being a daydreamer, I was heavily into, and someone who was very passionate about things. So I don't, to answer your question, I don't remember that. I don't think I ever had a day where, I was trying to be normal and I just had that epiphany. I think I was always an outsider.
Yeah.
I always felt like an outsider looking in. So I would take individual sports, right? I never was a team player. I never, if I was on a soccer team, the team was going one way, I was focused on the orange slices at the intermission, whatever. So just didn't give a rip what the team was doing, right? And I didn't really care for the different characters on the team and whatnot, which later in life has been my biggest challenge, right? Like not being a team sports individual, being more of a solo, like daydreamer, passionate about like solo adventures. And, so my first love was skateboarding. I spent hours, and that was my escapism. I would be in my the parking lot by our house, just trying to perfect tricks. Wasn't great, but that was my escapism. So daydreaming about like art, photography, traveling around the world, that kind of thing, those kind of things were the bulk of my time. And quite frankly, I'm surprised I'm in this situation, right? Because it's had to take a lot of personal growth on my end to be able to handle all this discipline organization, because that's not where I come from initially. But like anything else, the challenge of, being self-aware, becoming self-aware. So I think the better question is like, when was the moment that you realized that like you all the problems you have, all the stuff that you need to work on, I think that was more like starting to go to the gym and realizing discipline that, I think to answer your question, like it's like 25 years old, 24, 25 years old, realizing that the discipline in the structure is what I lacked. And if I could combine like the passion, the visionary mentality that was like all consuming in my life and add some discipline to that, that's when things kind of started progressing slowly for me. So really it wasn't until my mid-20s, weightlifting, the structure, transitioning from skateboarding over the years to some music, but then like the weightlifting became like my latest like passion, and it's been a pattern of my life. When I get into something, it's like 100,000%. So it becomes all consuming. I want magazines. I want to spend the bulk of my time learning about it. So for the lifting, it started lifting weights. It became nutrition. It became like the sleep, and once I added that element to my life, like a lot of other like shortcomings over time, kind of like, well, I guess I should say it's the beginning of like the self-awareness of the shortcomings that I had, and better understanding who I am and who I'm not. The hardest thing for me is I've lived in this bubble of being a visionary for so long, and I actually enjoy being a daydreamer. So it's all, for me, there's a constant battle that I think I've accepted will be around to the day that I die, right? And what has changed the most is the systems and the routines that I've developed, which I think you probably, as a disciplined individual, have built like incredible systems or personal systems and just routines, daily routines you go through. So those are really the game changer. So for me, like I could say like overcompensated last couple of years, full disclosure, that where I feel like I became like a robot, and I lost some inner happiness of like the visionary dreaming and like setting like BHAG goals, which are big, hairy, audacious goals that like no one would ever want to do. And I'm starting to realize I need that in my life. Another passion is like cars. So for me, like trying to continue the growth of these businesses, right? But also have like a passion of like automobiles or vintage American automobiles. And then traveling, like, one of my goals is to take like a old like 30s car and travel across Europe, go through Italy, and make that happen, right? Live a life less ordinary, right? Which I did anyway. We didn't get into that. Like another real tipping point for me was being just a mess. Didn't graduate high school, got a GED, bounced out about 17 and a half, was living in a kind of this rented room on the floor, no mattress, rolled up like blankets for a bed. I kind of saw a few things go down with friends, like take some drugs that they can never return back from. Like I'm from Santa Cruz. It was kind of chaotic. Post high school, running at the wrong crowd, like people were starting to go to these raves and take acid and other stuff. And fortunately, like a gentleman who was a friend still today came in and invited me to go to church, right? I thankfully, accepted that invitation. So we went to church, and I started going to the young adults club there. And not too long after, like one of the guys that I was living with lost his sanity, I guess. I don't know what he did, but so I think there's been a lot of really close calls, like whys in my life, where either different individuals, God put them in, different individuals were motivated. I don't really have the answers, but there's been real close calls, and it's another thing that I step back and I look as I age and say, wow, I should be a lot more thankful that like I didn't fall, because easily could have been in that situation, right? And there is some accountability choices that I made, but I do realize sometimes we're all like one bad decision away from really destroying like forward momentum, but maybe even our mental health or our future in general. So life is fragile. And I do think that discipline and routines and having an upright, solid, clean life, it's not the most exciting. And then having passions that are healthy.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's the future for the secret to a healthy future, right?
Yeah.
It's MMA for you, whatever floats your boat, but something that's healthy, develops your critical thinking skills, and gives you a reason to why to wake up every day.
Yeah.
For me, MaxFit Industries is that 120%. It's all consuming, but the old cars are a way to also like spin all that stuff in.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird. It's like a weird blend. You have old cars, you have fitness industry. We're now into food manufacturing, smoothies. We have 2 locations that we have smoothies in, and this is kind of the model moving forward that I think will be the brand, will be the storefronts, smoothies, food, supplements.
Yeah.
But it's like this crazy flow of everything together and spinning the cars and having this life where it's adventure, it's unique, and every day I get up with something to look forward to.
Yes.
And I'm not bored. And when I'm bored, it's not pretty.
So how did all this happen? When did it hit you when you're like, I need to have something of my own? I want my own entity. When did the idea of business come into play for you?
Sadly, it wasn't that planned out, really. It was I had a gentleman I worked for like in Santa Cruz, because that's where I'm from. I was passionate about the lifting. I did have a job with the school district that was basically there to pay the bills, 9 to 5, keep a roof over my head. But I was very, this is 24, 25 years ago. There wasn't the combinations of supplements you have. You didn't have pre-workouts. You didn't have BCAAs. You had to kind of concoct your own like, recovery drinks, horse pill amino acids. But I had this like pretty unique mindset, and I had this, it was actually over the top, where I would wake up in the middle of the night, which is terrible now, but I would drink a protein shake with glutamine and take some horse pill aminos and just try to not miss a window of like anabolic window and all this craziness, which I would slap myself upside the head for breaking my sleep pattern now. But I didn't want to use steroids. I didn't want to go down that road. And so I was trying to optimize any gains that I had. And like, I was so into the fitness life. I was going to the gym twice a day, fasted cardio, not fasted cardio, just trying to see whatever would work. A lot of compound movements. I would split body parts up multiple times a day. And then, so I meandered into a store called Max Muscle on 41st Avenue. It's still there, different ownership, but started talking to the owner at the time, and he was like, wow, man, you taking all this stuff, like I was taking vanadyl sulfate, which is insulin potentiating to like help shuttle carbohydrates post-workout. And, I was kind of like a savant, was reading all these books that were available and some internet websites that were around at the time. So he was sort of impressed and gave me a job. And from there, I worked there. I worked my school job. I worked there after hours. I worked there weekends. Pretty much 7 days a week. I was working, including like from morning until 7 o'clock, I believe we closed. And then I went to the gym after that. And then after time, I just didn't change. I helped grow his business. Hopefully I felt I did. It wasn't just like a transactional employee. I would this knowledge, because I was passionate about it. Like if a customer was to come in and ask me stuff, I would just share the information. And, I was a big believer in post-workout, like, carbohydrate consumption and stuff like that. And, stacking like recovery products before you go to bed. And, and like I said, it was a lot harder than or maybe it was better. Sometimes too much variety put you, there's too much disinformation, right? Too much, you didn't have like the social media to promote disinformation. We're talking about supplements, right? Fitness, and information usually, in my belief, as I sit here almost 50 years old, I think a lot of information is false. It's meant to, some sort of gain at the end. And I think we all have bills to pay, but like if you can look at the world like through that lens, you're a little bit better off, but that's a side issue. But so it's a real clean, it's a real easy way to make sales. People appreciate it. He ended up asking me to be a partner. That was his philosophy. Like he had 2 stores, partner up with people. His growth, that was his growth trajectory or strategy. So we did. Store didn't really work that good. It was here in Salinas. He said, I'm out of here. The store's not making it like up to my standards after a year. You're welcome to take it over, buy me out. I did. Kind of like really wasn't a no-brainer. I had already thought about it, but once the deal was signed, I was kind of like, oh shit, like what do I do now? So that began the journey. So I was kind of like more of a nudged into it, and like the passion and the feist and the feistiness to succeed kind of actually grew over time, but I think that was I think a lot of that had to do from lack of confidence from my childhood. And I think that's like, I call myself in life a top ender. I've built confidence later in life. And a lack of confidence was any confidence that I have today was built by like the little victories I've had over the last 20 years to the point where like, sometimes I have to pinch myself that we have 3 stores, we're shipping food nationally. Own supplement line that's been growing, just all the added things that we have to the brand, which is created like a multi-million-dollar company from a store that was doing like $900 a day, right? So, anyways, that's the situation. I think my story is uniquely different, but it's my story, and I own it. And with that being said, like I do feel like my life is just beginning, I should say. So at 50 years old, with all the struggles and all the stuff I've learned, I think for me, like the next 20 years are going to be like the biggest gains that I make and the brand makes as a whole, right? So
isn't it crazy how such a simple idea, especially when somebody passes on you something and you're able to turn it into a multi-million-dollar business?
Starting from where I was to where I am today, right? Like I said, it's not the journey to success is not a straight line, and confidence is built and confidence is earned, right? Right. And I think there's an element of faking confidence, right? Until you get there, but it is imperative that you accomplish things, you set goals, but I think the number one thing that built confidence and took me from like the 400 square foot store that I started off with, that basically made no money, was, in the red constantly, like multiple times a month, where I'm stressing to pay my bills constantly. Going from that to where we are today was just never freaking quitting, dude. Like, no matter what, no how bad it went, whether I had to like suffer, 4 or 5 overdraft fees in a month and losing money, still showing up to work, still treating each person with integrity, focusing on the customer, focusing on the why that I got into this business, and the relationships that I was building, which are key to me in business. And that's one thing that I really like reinstituted into my own outlook for 2024. It was kind of like an epiphany. Like I said, there's a lot of like deviations, I don't know about that, but deviations, right? Like along the way.
Yes.
With that said, sometimes you lose your core focus, right? And then you are, it wasn't like a major deviation where you're losing everything, but you forget. In my particular case, I think I forgot the why I was doing it. It becomes like we spent the last 4 or 5 years, it was absolute must, like building systems and routines, lean processes for smoothies, right? Processes for human resources, processes for payroll, processes for our financial, developing a much better accounting system, all that stuff that I, as a visionary person was extremely like outside of my element, but it's something I needed to shore up, to have confidence, and something the business absolutely needed to get to our level where we can maintain and actually continue to grow. But there's a lot of that stuff that took my ability to be on the floor of my businesses and have those relationships, which were the key element to the growth of MaxFit. People come into MaxFit because of relationships and time and face time with myself or different individuals that have worked for me along the way, and that is like a key importance. So 2024, thank goodness we've had a lot of like success. We've had a lot of forward growth with like building the team, building the structure, all the processes that needed to fall into place for a business to maintain success, maintain operation at a higher level. And I have extremely high standards in terms of cleanliness, customer service and all the important things of running a business. Now I can redirect my energy to relationship building, higher level and visionary stuff like that gets me up in the morning. But a lot of the times, like we were discussing earlier, it's sexy. People think it's sexy to be an entrepreneur. I don't know what's sexy about like how to construct a perfect smoothie in the right amount of time where the customers are not standing around.
Yeah.
But what is sexy is somebody comes in daily and relies on you for their lunch or their nutrition, or it's very sexy, I guess, when somebody comes and says, hey man, I lost 30 pounds and I'm able to keep weight off, or, I come here every day because I look forward to it. Yeah. And there's a lot of backstory to maintain that quality, because things just do not make, killer smoothies don't make themselves on their own. Yeah. And it might happen by accident once, but to get the same quality product day in, day out, no matter what mood I'm in, the manager's in, the employee's in, same product that ends up in the consumer's hand, which is our number one why for doing all this. That takes a hell of a lot of work, and it's not a lot of sexy work, but it has to be done. Yeah. But it's like going to the gym. Like, your first month or two, you're just sore. Your ligaments, your tendons are getting beat up. You don't know why you're doing this. Muscle's not coming on. But like after maybe 3 or 4 years, and you've got your nutrition right, and you start seeing some cuts and some results, that struggle actually is much deeper reward. And I think that's why I've developed a passion for this, and which keeps me going day in and day out. And I've come to accept that most days are shit. Yeah. Most days, like, little things happen that throw you off. And, like I've heard on a previous podcast of yours, you get a little thicker skin from that. Like, I tend not to try to overreact, even though I do really care a lot. Yeah. So it's a fine line. Like, overreacting is a side effect of really caring and being deeply passionate about what you're doing and the product you're putting out. Like, this is where my confidence comes from. Like, even like the sticker, if we get a bad manufacturing job and the sticker's not on there properly, like I'm on the phone, like, what's going on? So, it's a cyclone of all this craziness and all these details that matter. And for me, having those systems where I don't lose my mind, I don't go mentally ill from having to worry about all this stuff, because I care deeply about every element, and building like systems and checks and balances to help maintain these quality, maintain these products that we're putting out. It's been a game changer for me.
So when you bought out the individual who had the store, and you kind of looked around like, wait, what now?
Sure.
The difficulty it was to build everything in the meantime made you more confident. It gave you thicker skin. It gave you a different ability to be able to adapt in every situation. And then to the point where it's like, now you're thinking about what's next. How can we innovate? How can we make the customer more satisfied? So you, in that trajectory, you put yourself in all those steps from doing the hard things. And that's what a lot of people miss. And that's why people, I believe, stop their ventures, is because this holds them back, the mindset.
I think the lack of mental toughness, the lack of being able to suffer. But I've been suffering my whole life, you know what I mean? I'm sure you have too, man. Like daydreaming on a roof while your parents are boxing it out.
You almost embrace it, kind of, right? Like, you almost embrace it.
It's like it's the bed you lie in, like suffering. Suffering is normal for me. Not suffering is actually an uncomfortable place, and it's unfortunate, because I would love for a day where I don't suffer a little bit, or I don't feel like, an element of what's the word I'm thinking of, not belonging here, not deserving this, owner, imposter, that kind of thing. But that goes away, unfortunately, and I think anytime I really blossom is when there's like a hiccup or something goes wrong. And anytime there's in business, there's something goes wrong, and it's not always something massive, but there's decisions that are made, whether it's economic, whether it's any reason why. There's always there's unintended consequences, and sometimes the unintended consequences was unforeseen, and it creates a little bit of pressure and an element of suffering and mental stress. I think my suffering came from mental stress and chaos, right? So it creates that fight mode in me, and I'm actually unfortunately happier in that fight mode, right? And being like outsider in school, not feeling like I belong, and a lot of elements, I could honestly say I have a little chip on my shoulder. So if you back me into a corner at 50 years old, it's going to be the different reaction than when you back. And so I have to like acknowledge that I can be a bully, and I try to make people pay for the suffering that I've got in terms of like salesmen coming at me squirrely. You're going to freaking pay. You're going to pay just because I know the deal now, right? Like it's like you flip the switch, and I know the strategy that a lot of people play, and there's a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, like I said, that it's almost like batting a bunny, and I don't want to be a bully at all. But sometimes you can get way more leverage being aggressive. So it's this fine line of, it becomes like an art, right? Like you become an actor, I truly believe, I'm a very nice person. I've been overly nice, I think, when I was younger. So I've had to learn to, put on a suit of armor in negotiations, learn how to negotiate, learn how to advocate for myself. And again, that was another badge or another, medallion in my journey of entrepreneurial success. And those little badges and medallions give, unlike I'm not a military officer, but it gives me success. So the art of negotiation, the art of winning over any obstacle, propels me to more confidence and less of the self-doubt. But if you don't have self-doubt, I don't know where you're at, man. I think ego and bravado and like thinking you're there already is the biggest detriment to most people, right? And the more success you get, the more people will come around and say, hey, look all the great things you're doing. They don't know your backstory, and I think it is very cool that I'm able to share this, because I do think that a lot of people have a misunderstanding, like maybe I got a business degree or anything of that nature. I think it would have come in handy in a lot of ways, but you can't teach or you can't earn grit in a university. And a lot of times, if you're going to find, you do talk to more entrepreneurs like around in your journeys, you're going to find like the narrative's pretty similar, man. Like we were trying to prove, for me, like I even have my own, in the back of one of my stores, there's a whole lounge. It's got all my family name. It's got my wife's family. There's a bar. It's not, we don't serve alcohol, but it's a location spot where I meet with like-minded individuals. We should have done this here, there actually.
Next time.
Next time, right? But it's to regain my family name.
Yes. Because,
my dad, God rest his soul, I think, caused some shame. Like, there's a few friends I had over to my house. Like the last time I had friends over, he passed out drunk in front of them, and they were telling me, oh, your dad's drunk. No, he's not. He's just tired. Like trying to cover up for him, and like ended up knocking him up a little bit because they were talking bad about my dad, but they were just stating the facts, right? So I think that backstory can never be replaced. Would I choose to go through that? Would I put my children through that? Absolutely not. But what's done is done. All I can do is slay that beast, recreate my family name. To me, that's extremely important. So if you had mentioned earlier that like you heard good things about me, to me that was another badge. Because I don't want people to think that I'm a bully. I don't want people to think that I'm greedy or a corner cutter that doesn't pay his bills. My reputation is like serious as a freaking heart attack to me. It really is. And if you ever assault my reputation unwarranted, like it's fucking war, dude. Like World War III in my book, right? Like, and there's been a few people that have tried. Like I think that's the course of our lives. People, especially you put yourself out there. There's, I don't know, whatever they're dealing with in their own life, envy, whatever. I've never seen them win because they're not coming from the element of truth. They're coming from insecurity. So if you really knew me, like where I come from, I was like you, like a joker. Like even my aunt, we were talking, and she's like, you're not as funny as you used to be. Like, I'm sorry. Well, I was always joking because it was I don't think that was me. It was
something else.
It was a cover up. It was a character that I was playing because I wanted your attention. It was, but sometimes, you know, I mean, without going too deep, comedians are some of the most tortured people in the world. So, I mean, laughter is healthy, but you know, I do feel like, you know, I didn't get that deep. It was a text message string with my aunt, and not that she even cared, right? I gotta go, you know. But she knew the me that I was trying to cover up. I haven't really spent a lot of time with her the last 20 years, and for me, I feel like myself, the person that earned respect, not from trashing people or jokes or clowning on someone's clothes, or, you know, because a lot of times humor is at the expense of somebody else. But just really inwardly looking at myself and trying to slay the demons as best as possible. And I think, you know, every human being walking this earth has some sort of demon, and nobody escapes from the trauma of life, right? So discipline, and you know, I was gonna say, like, my wife I think I do come off too aggressive, and I you know, I was born 6'3", you know.
It's a good trait, though. Honestly, trust me.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, but in this, America's a little bit, I guess I don't want to offend anybody, but we've gone to a point where, like, people wear pajamas. Yeah, should be. You can cancel me all you want, but I don't wear pajamas outside. Sorry, you know. That's the epitome of undiscipline. So when I, you know, ask my wife, when I take my old 36 Ford out, I wipe it down every time. I clean the white walls. I vacuum the car because I feel better about the car. The experience is better. I see Rudy, great guy, a friend of yours, at the barber every Friday. Why? Because I feel good. I feel disciplined. You know, it's part of my routine that makes me feel better about myself, and it creates orderliness in my life. So I start the weekend with a haircut. I have my routines, you know, and the point of, like, 2024 is the perception's there of maybe being disciplined and maybe soften it up, because people don't really know what's going on, including some of my employees don't know what goes on inside my head, that I have, like, traveled around the world. I've hitchhiked across Europe when I was 19 and didn't eat for 5 days, and slept in youth hostels, slept in random people's couches. Like, they would assume that my life's always been this way. There is a deeper backstory to it, but at this point in my life, I'm most happy this way, believe it or not. And I think most people could be more happy by adding discipline and structure to their life, and less seeking vice. Like, I don't really get into sports too much. I don't get into drinking too much, because every time I do, I feel like escapism. It's cool to play sports. That's a different story than sitting there watching and, you know, putting your life, your emotions, or your physical well-being on the, you know, someone else's ability to play or whatever. So.
And then going back to when you were saying, when it comes to negotiations, and when you're involved in business, kind of, we were talking about off air, there's a lot of dirty people. There's a lot of scammers out there that just like to.
That's what you need to smash them.
Yes.
Make them pay, right?
Agreed. And I like that.
Make it painful. Like, so you want to kick the kid who stole my, you know, this is a vivid memory I was very nice, right? I don't know, wet behind the ears, whatever you want to call it. Like, I got to Return the Jedi, like my grandma visited this before your time, but Star Wars is still a thing. It's a little action figure. I go there, a kid goes, let me see it, and he takes it, doesn't give it back. I'm like, I can't believe this happened, right? Like, why would you do that? Like, totally scam me. I wonder where he's at today, right? Like, but that little thing is like, I would never do that to anybody. I guess I was born a kind person. I'm not a thief. And you get ripped off no matter who you are. People rip you off. But I'm in a position where, like, I see it coming now. I don't have that, like, I get accused of not trusting people. I don't trust anybody. I trust, but I verify who you are. And I honestly don't, don't really trust you I verify that you're who you are and you're a legit person. Because older I get, I get more opportunities availed that most people are full of crap, right? So, that doesn't mean people can't have issues in their life, but, like, you steal from me, you undermine me, it's fucking on, right? Like, but, like, a lot of, like, there's just shady people, and, it's almost like you walk, I should get this verse right, whatever saying right, but walk calm, but you carry a big stick, and like that stick is there. And I realize that every day is a battle, and we're all battling over resources. Whether it's attention, whether it's something simple like being the coolest guy in the gym and bash Kris because of this, and you feel like you're going to get ahead, or you're coming after my physical money, or you're coming after my business. I've had it all done, and I haven't lost yet. Why? Because like you're going to have to freaking kill me. Like I'll be dead. I'll sacrifice everything to win. I won't sacrifice my integrity. I won't lie about you. But I mean, we've had a store open up years ago here in town, and all immediate reaction was to start spreading rumors or lies or talking shit about like how their stuff's better. And like all I did was, first I was angry and like my blood's boiling, and that little kid that, no matter how big you get physically, which doesn't really matter really. It's big tall babies out there, softies. Sorry.
That's true.
There's still that little kid. I go back to that kid that, what the hell? Why would you do that? Like, why on earth?
Yes.
And then I get freaking mad, and I want to seek revenge, right? And my revenge is not going to run my mouth. What I would do now, and what I did then, is like I looked at everything they had. I bought it in bulk. Fucking halved off it, put money into marketing, and year and a half later, they're out of business. So they brought it on themselves, right? Like Sun Tzu. If you enter, Sun Tzu, Art of War.
That book is on my desk right now.
It's a hard read. It's like Old Testament for me. I got ADD. Remember, it's like Art of War is deception. If your enemy is large, become weak. But that's what they didn't do. I mean, I'm not the U.S. Navy, but in this town, we've been very established. So if you're going to come and take up, they're a better strategy. I'm not trying to give them advice, but would be meek. Start building relationships. But they try to come at me head on, which is stupid. It's not Sun Tzu. Become humble. Always be humble. Weak and then build strength. But the fact that there's Machiavellian books out there, the fact that there's Art of War, there are people scheming against you. There's people that are shaking your hand, breaking bread with you, that are scheming against you. And it's a weird position to be in. I think anyone who's peeled back the onion and created something, somebody else wants that thing that you have, whether they want to be part of it or whether they want to take the whole thing, that is up to them, but you have to be aware. So it's almost like you have you enter in this like 2% outlook that you don't believe the world is the fantasy world, the Disneyland creation, that fake world that Americans live in. And I think most Americans have bought it's free speech. They've bought the pill that it's a Disneyland world, and it's not. No. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to kill you, but like you should be aware. You walk down a dark alley, there could be somebody who was abused their whole life and wants to fucking make you pay, right? So walk tall. I mean, walk calmly, walk tall, but be prepared to fuck shit up if you need to. And that's every day I come in here ready to fight.
Oh my God.
So it's not physically, because you'll probably kick my ass. But weight 100 pounds heavier doesn't mean shit,
Yeah, man. And honestly, I love competition, and that comes from my former profession. And it goes back to Sun Tzu, how studying your competition, looking at
the enemy.
Oh my God, it's so important. And before I ever fought anybody, I wanted to know them more than they knew themselves. When somebody tries to come at you and scam you, I kind of welcome them like, man, please try. Please try. Because that's just gonna make me put you and get you out of my way.
And then you also educate you, the different scam, the way you begin to compartmentalize people, right? And it's something that it can be learned as a positive way. I have my own employees, right? There's different personality types. There's people that are physically different. There's people that are mentally different. I am a visionary, kind of like, even before all the ADD stuff. I think that goes hand in hand, and our schools misdiagnose that stuff. But visionary people are bigger thinkers. A CEO of a company is bigger thinker. The ability to create relationships, higher level thoughts, and then what you need to have is like, the integrator with you. So like, now let's get into the brass tacks of like running a business, and coming back to like this long journey of where I came from. self-awareness, but the self-awareness of like who I need to add in a business environment, right? So as a visionary, like you need an integrator. And I got that from education, like a book, you know, a book that taught me about the VI relationship, visionary integrator. Some people, everyone's not created different. Some people have elements of being a visionary, and some people have elements of, or more top heavy on being an integrator. Very few people are like 50-50 split down the way. I think I'm like 90% visionary, 10% integrator. Like there's see that pile of paperwork that's been sitting here for, so I got to hire people to, you know, file. Like, but what does it matter? Like if I sit here and file all day, I'm out of business. If I have to take somebody on, and I gotta like, you know, takes a little balls sometimes. When I told you I bought like pallets of shit, sometimes I put it on credit card. Like I'm gonna you want to throw shade or dishonest, I'm gonna leverage my credit. I'm gonna buy, you know, you can go back on my Instagram, there was like they were really selling pallets of Bang. I bought 10 pallets of Bang, put it in front of my store, you know, and like let's fucking go to war. And then I put it at like $1 profit, and I started running ads, and they're done, right? So sometimes it takes balls, but if I'm here, like I can't really, like if I'm like, I need that emotion, I wanted to win, you know. And the side effect of that was like, I didn't really care about business. I was more like, I'm gonna fucking win these guys, right? But you had people coming for that, you know, deal of Bang cases, and then they were buying other stuff. They were getting exposed to the brand that they hadn't been in for a while, but they wanted that deal on the Bang case, and then business started like flourishing, right? So that enemy, like I need to focus on that stuff. I don't need to be up here putting gas receipts. That needs to be done. Someone's got to do it. Doesn't mean you know, don't handle your accounting. But understanding that has to be done, understanding I can't do it, and getting the people, and understanding those people are not salespeople. They're not going to necessarily see eye to eye to you all the time. They're going to push back because they don't really, you know, there are a lot of times like an integrator is like, you know, try to tell you no, like it's not profitable, like selling stuff at Bang, you know, Bang at $1 profit. Why are we doing this? But the unintended consequences was winning. That was intended consequence. Unintended consequence of like that battle was like all these fresh new customers, and the respect of actually winning that particular battle, and like putting out squashing all that negative information that they were throwing shade. And you know, sadly, like years later, some of those employees come around again and shop with us. So it's a really weird journey. But for me, I think the point I was getting at is like, you have all these characters in your employees. They all have strength. They all have weaknesses. This is all coming back from a book called Good to Great that the key players in our business have really tripled down on. Good to Great is how businesses went from good companies to great companies. And that's like, they use the analogy of like a bus to success. And where do you put the people? Like someone drive the bus, is somebody, you know, chilling in the back or whatever. But putting those people and rearranging the bus for their particular strengths and understanding their weaknesses. Like if you have a bookkeeper, you don't put them on the sales floor selling supplements. If you have a guy or girl who's very eloquent, good at, you know, developing relationships, you put them on the sales floor, you give them incentives. But you also don't expect them to be like me, like can't file paperwork. They're usually pretty stereotypical personality types out there. As a person who's loquacious, talkative, quick to build relationships, guy, girl, whatever. They don't want to, they're not good. So like, it's been my deal is like understanding that and understanding what I need and understanding who I need on my team to be in what place has been a big thing. And like, and giving some grace to grace to people that are like, you can't brush everyone with a broad brush. Integrator type, the person that's filing the paperwork, give them grace if they're not a salesperson. Put them in the right position. So anyways.
And going back to emotion and specifically the enemy, I'm a religious reader, and one of the books that I really like to study is like the Stoics when it comes to Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus. And I always thought being emotional was a very bad thing. I read a book that I finished last week. It's called Choose Your Enemies Wisely by Patrick Bet-David. And he talks about using the emotion, but logic behind it. So there are people coming after us, just like we said. There is competition out there. If you don't think there's competition out there, you are living in a fairy tale. And he says, use that emotion when it comes to people saying, I'm going to put you out of business, or you're not going to be nothing once I get involved in your space. Use that emotion, but where's the logic behind it?
That's the people you're lucky. Like, there's plenty of people that don't say shit. And they're thinking that, and they don't tell you, right? So you're lucky someone's telling you that.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's a blessing. But I can tell you, like 3/4 of people are thinking that, and they're not saying anything. They're just putting in work. So yeah, Pat Bet-David is on point. And I agree with what, that, I think that coming back to age, emotion, I think is really prevalent when you're young, especially, I think visionary types thrive on emotion and systems and routines, and like keeping on the big picture and staying on task, and winning everyday battles by powerless and knocking out tasks. Definitely keeps the emotions at bay. But I haven't read that book. I've heard of the book because I'm a fan of the show, and I've heard him mention it. I definitely need to,
you would love
break it open, right? But it's a fine balance where I'm trying to bring back some of that emotional energy, right? And then maintain all the other maintain the army, but like, where was, the passion of defeating like Hitler, like that. You can't look at that as like, oh, he's a bad guy, let's use our army. Like, there was some emotion, like we need to knock this fool out, like let's, besides, I think there wasn't a lot of knowledge of the even deeper stuff that he was doing, which I think there is a battle of good and bad, and there's a struggle with everyone going on. There's a deeper struggle that we don't realize. And I think you're smart to educate yourself on that.
Yes.
I think paranoia should guide you. Paranoia is a negative emotion to most people. I'm paranoid every day of my life, man. Like, I think I was born paranoid, fortunately. Like, I think it can be a negative thing, and you can have like checks and balances in your life to vet paranoia to yourself. And then you could strengthen yourself towards those checks and balances to vet people out, but you should be paranoid. You should lead from paranoia. There's a million stories of ways you could lose. And I think that's the unsexiness about, of entrepreneur life. Like, no one opens a business and thinks that their staff is going to steal protein out the back door, which has happened to me. No one's going to take money or make false discounts to their homies or whatever. It's just normal. Like, if I talk about that with some people, oh, that stuff happens all the time to you. No, it doesn't. I freaking catch them because I'm paranoid. If you're not looking, and you're telling me like it doesn't happen in my business, you're a dummy, because it is happening at your business. Yeah. So that paranoia keeps me checking in with my team, and it helped us create audits to vet against that best practice for theft reduction, whether it's discount reduction, whether it's food theft, or any sort of way that money can go out the back door into someone else's hands other than the company. Paranoia has brought me to that point to, it's been the motivator to really triple down on those systems and maintain those systems, check on those systems every day at the business, because you're basically, your margins can be eaten up. You could go out of business very quickly, and you have no momentum if you have no energy, no oxygen in terms of profit margins, because of like simple things like theft. You're not going anywhere, man, and you can't make big moves. So sadly, paranoia should be there. It can't, again, like the safety net, like the vines of like that you can hang yourself, the vines you can hang yourself as an entrepreneur, are not creating these systems, because you'll live in this crazy hamster wheel of paranoia.
Yes.
Clarity. Systems create clarity that I'm not getting ripped off. I wake up feeling like I'm ripped off. Prove to me I'm not.
Yes.
Sucks. That's how I wake up, dude. I'm fucking getting ripped off. Tell me I'm not.
Yeah.
This motherfucker's not working. Show me he is working.
Yeah.
And then, if there's clarity, someone can atone for the hours they're spending at my store, or I can actually get on here, do my own audits, and say, wow, because I'm assuming like time theft happens. People are talking, people are cutting corners on my, handfulling drinks when we, which loses our momentum on the smoothies and whatnot, creates inconsistent products. I need to prove to myself every day that with clarity, with audits, and with proof that we're on the right track. And if I can get that done, and it has been getting done, now I feel like I'm more free to be the old Kris. So like old Kris, I miss him. He had to go away for a while. He had to go to boot camp. He had to go to college. It wasn't university of debt and, other people's agendas, I should say. It was university of actual knowledge, university of street fighting, one-on-one, like knocking it out every day. And then also like, I do want to bring the elements of my own like former self, but in a different way, if that makes sense. Like in a new and reinvented way of like connecting with people. And this is part of it, man, like taking the time to do this. There's stuff to do. I respect your time just like you're respecting mine, but this is important to like me giving back, right? Getting involved with the brass tacks. Like I think that's the biggest thing with even our education system. It's like people are promised a lot of things and they're put into a lot of debt, which I think is terrible. I think it's dishonest. A lot of people get degrees that there's never a discussion with their counselor of like an outcome of a way to sustain a the decent ROI. Return on investment. Can you raise a family with exercise science degree with the amount of money? There's nothing wrong with that if that's what you're passionate about. But there should be more clarity and honesty. You actually need to become a physical therapist, or you need to own multiple locations. You need to be a physical therapist entrepreneur. Like a few friend of mine, like working as a physical therapist is not the answer. You need to learn how to be a operator of physical therapy locations. So.
And going back to the paranoia, I don't think there's a big deal with that. I think actually that's a very big benefit to you, because I kind of correlate that to fighting. Say leading up to a fight, it's like you're just training. You're not really thinking about the fight particularly, but when it's fight day and you're in that locker room, that stress kicks in. When you're like, Daniel, you're up, let's go. You're on the walk. Then you're like, the body gets warm, the stress gets involved. But if I walked into a fight thinking, I got this in the bag, this is going to be easy work, I'm going to lose. But if I walk in there with a little bit of stress, it keeps me on my toes and it keeps me aware. And I feel like that's important even to this day. Like even a family member asked me quite recently, Daniel, how you doing, man? How's everything been? I'm like, I'm the most stressed I've ever been, but I am the happiest I've ever been. But I like that. I like how there's stress that I need to solve, problems that I need to solve every single day. That gives me fulfillment and meaning. And that's why even to you, like you have a certain look to you where there's fulfillment in. You don't, it's like you don't even have to speak about it. I could just tell just by looking at you. It's like you said earlier, you wake up every day not being bored.
What other life can you, it's like Christmas every morning, right? And quite frankly, like it's the challenge of life. Instead of getting something for free, like a Nintendo or something your parents bought you or Santa, liars, starts off with dishonesty, right? Like this whole journey. I mean, this morning, I my old car again, like it's having a distributor problem on one of my cars, and I got invited to put my car in a show in Sacramento, and I need to get it done. So there's like a challenge of like fun. I want to do improvements to this car. It's an honor to be inside of like a display of a car show that I'm into personally and seeing other people do. And so there's a natural high with that. There's a feeling of accomplishment, but I'm not going to go there with the same product I had before. So now the clock's ticking. I'm going to make improvements. So every weekend I've got like a system for my garage, right? It's not like the work systems, but I have a dry erase board and I have my car and, like replace distributor or paint grill or whatever. And it gives me a feeling of accomplishment. So when I go to that show, if I just took the same car that I've driven last week, I would not feel as like this confidence in that car, the self-esteem that I would have bringing it wouldn't be the same. I have to to me, it's an honor. It's my duty to bring a better product than what you saw and invited me to, if that makes sense, to bring. So this morning at 6 a.m, I'm out there trying to mess with the distributor, and it's critical thinking. It's where, I'm learning, I'm watching YouTube videos. It's a feather in your cap in that particular segment of my life. And, quite honestly, like when I got into cars, I didn't know anything. It's embarrassing. You go to a Cars and Coffee, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. These old guys have been doing it their whole lives, and I'm not going to be that guy. I want to have a deeper understanding of how a motor works, And the same thing with here.
Yeah.
And that creates confidence in the car scene. So I don't know where we're going with this, but like, you should always be curious. And that's another word that we have really tripled down on MaxFit. Curiosity. Because it's easy. I'm the first guy, because of the paranoia, to make the wrong assumptions about people. Sometimes they're right. They're not always right. So like the tagline, the narrative at MaxFit for 2024, and we're spinning it in heavily, is curious, right? There's been situations like if, somebody comes in and asks for something and, oh, we don't have it. And we actually did have it, right? And you weren't curious enough to look, curious to know if we can get it, curious to know, like, is it even a possibility? So we want to, we quickly added that to our core mission statement, our MaxFit core values, right? We identified that this year as one of our core values, to be curious, to lead from curiosity. And that comes from my wife. So I can honestly say, I should have said this earlier, because she usually falls off and every time I'm on a podcast, so it's usually praise her early. So I'm just kidding. My wife's my biggest supporter, but my wife is a very disciplined person. She's not artistic like me, not a visionary. She's an integrator in my life. So God gave me an integrator. She handles her shit. She's up at 4:30. She is a top level performer at her job. She's an executive. That's how she's worked hard to get there, but people are born with a certain skill set, and her skill set, she's tripled down through education, through some good leaders that have been in front of her, that have made her work and made her make tough decisions, have put her out in her field of hospital management, which is just as difficult, just as challenging, if not more challenging than any other thing that's out there. So I have somebody on a daily basis that's an example of hard work, example of discipline. My wife is as serious as a heart attack, and when it comes to her job, she's extremely professional. It's extremely high standards. Professionalism is her number one objective, right? Having that person around me to absorb that energy, get ideas off of. I actually got the book Good to Great from her library that she was given to read by a good power of example leader that she had at the time. So there's a lot of things that I've learned from her. So it is imperative that we make the right decisions in terms of our mates, whoever they are, and the people that we surround ourselves with. So curiosity came from her. Curiosity killed the freaking cat. Maybe he need to go, but in terms of your life, if that killed him, he was a sucker, right? Curiosity is huge, and that I just been hearing my wife use that word, and when we jump down someone's throat for something, she always will ask me, "Were you curious? Did you find out why that happened?" You're late. Well, all right, I don't like people being late.
Yeah.
What's the reason? If it can be vetted, you're not bloodshot eyes and, smelling like booze, then a little curiosity is okay, right? But lead from that and why things are the same way. And then,
And that's why one of the biggest reasons why I started this show is because of curiosity. Because everybody who sits beside me brings something different to the table.
Sure.
And I am very, very curious to learn their tactics, their mistakes, their gains, their losses.
Awesome.
I am curious.
That's awesome.
And even my mentor praised that onto me when it comes to even the fight game and off the fight game and in business. You need to be curious, man. It has helped me so much. It pays dividends.
It really does, yeah.
When it comes to your experience as an entrepreneur and businessman, what do you think are the biggest traits that somebody should carry when they are an entrepreneur or they have a business?
The biggest traits, something I said earlier, tenacity, virtues, traits or virtues. I think there's a lot of alignment with those. Tenacity, tenacity encompasses not quitting, the ability to follow through with things, whether how ugly they are. The ability to trait or ability to focus on the long game, to set goals and then actually obtain those goals. And the ability to get your ass kicked here and there, or a lot, take a punch. I mean, fighters physically take punches. Business owners take punches constantly. There's been extremely low points in my life where I had to close the store one time, like my original store, and was, that was about 2.5 years into the journey, and there was an opportunity to my wife had come in at that time, and it was pretty pathetic store going. There was no products left to sell. I was still showing up to work. Trying to sell whatever I had, and there were some awesome people that supported me and bought. If I had one flavor of pre-workout, they still bought that one flavor. And she's like, "Hey man, it's time to close. Let's quit." And she wasn't encouraging me to quit, but it's time to close. Quit this store. Yeah. And she never said quit. Get a job. Never once told me that. And then something availed to me, an opportunity to open this 500 or 450 square foot store. Start again from a pathetic cage in the back of a gym that with no front access, where you had to use the fire door to get into the business. And I kept charging, man, and the tenacity but I believed that I would succeed in the end. There was an undying belief. Couldn't say I was the most confident guy, but the trait that I had, there was undying belief in my heart that I would get there eventually. I knew, just like everything else in my life, it was going to take longer than most people, but I was going to trudge along and learn. And I think that trait is ideal, if not mandatory, for getting there. So you have to have undying vision, dream, whatever you call it, that you're going to succeed and prevail in the end. And I think despite all the challenges, I've always had that, and even my darkest points. And not too long after that, a guy came in, heard about us from social media, which saved my ass. Like, things avail, right? Like Instagram it's
crazy, just
popped up out of nowhere, right? And then it's a free way to market, and that was getting some attention that way. Like, no money, no time. There's a free avenue to put yourself in front of people. Yes. Had no protein. Like, and he fucking comes in, he goes, "What kind of store has no protein?" And like, this place is a joke. And like, right to my face, I'm like, you want to strangle the guy or whatever, but what can I say? It was right, but I'm here.
Yeah.
Next customer, please. Right. Like, and just eat the crow. Yeah. And then that's stupid to not have protein. So in my mind, I came up with this. It's either like, man, I got to have protein. So what I would do is, hey man, like, the next guy came after that huge embarrassing situation. And I was like, hey, I don't have that protein, but I have the ability to get it in 24 hours, and I'll give you a 20% discount if you pay now. And I would, and I'll have it here by tomorrow, and I'll call you. So going back to being a person of your word, and this is how bad it got for me. I would take orders. So like three or four orders would come in a day. I would basically take a huge cut of my profit, knowing that I could hopefully make it up on the drinks or whatever I was selling, just to keep you in my sphere of business. Yeah. I would take that loss, get the product in your hand. I would always call you. Yeah, that was very low time. If I had to like overdraft, not bounce a check, to get you that product, I would get it in your hands to make sure that you didn't lose faith in my business. You were loyal enough. You had enough trust in me to prepay for a protein. Yes. And that became like a hustle I had to do for 6 months, man. But imagine that, like this 400 square foot store, I had enough desire to keep going, and enough of my reputation that, like a Daniel would come in, like as an American who wants stuff here yesterday, and I'm the same way, to agree to prepay for something and having to come back and pick it up. Yeah. And I made sure every freaking time it was there, and every time I called you, despite losing money on the deal, I made sure you got it. Yeah. So that again, street fighting, every sale count, every freaking penny count, every ounce of my reputation counted at that point. That is what was really the tipping point that brought us to where we can, have like the momentum that we have. So, it really was earned. If you would have known me years ago, I wouldn't have had this confidence that I have. I think it's intimidating, like, to some people, because a lot of people don't have confidence. Yeah. But I can hold my head up in any room, because knowing that I don't care if you're the president, I don't care if you're a lawyer, I don't care if you're the DA, and those people have made their bones, but I've earned my right at the fucking table, by doing right by people and doing right by my customers. So again, 2024, it's customers first. That's what MaxFit is about. It is appreciating and building that loyalty. So like I might not have a store trying to put me out of business, but every day the acknowledgement that the internet is putting me out of business, Amazon's putting out of business. So why would you come into MaxFit?
Yeah.
Fortunately, we have smoothies, we have food that you can't buy on the internet. Yeah. You can buy food on the internet, but it's a lot easier to come. Yeah. We can go into that some other time, but another thing, like same principles, dude. Like our food, we do not cut corners. We leave food. We leave money off the table every freaking day. Yeah. You know, there's always a devil, and that's another thing you got to learn with. There's always a devil and an angel.
Yes.
On each shoulder, if you know that old skit or whatever, like the devil's pissing in your ear, like buy some rotten meat from Food Co.
Save money.
Yeah, make $1 more. We discussed the situation where I had like, you know, I could get a pound of protein, like a couple of dollars less. And when you amortize that over the volume, we sell, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars of protein, smoothies. So if I'm making, you know, 5%, 10% more, that's $5,000 or $10,000. Yeah. Devil says, do it. We're not going to ever make a change to our product unless it's as good or better. Yeah. I don't care if it saves me or puts more money in my pocket. I don't care if there's inflation. I don't care. The number one thing is that you're getting the best product when you come to a MaxFit, because that's what you expect. It's what you've come to expect. And frankly, it's selfish on my end. I want you craving this stuff. I need you at your office, damn, one of those PB2s. Yeah. I feel like having one. And if I slit my own throat to save 10%, 5%, I'm the damn fool. But I can't tell you how many times that I've seen people do that stuff over and over and over again. So that's another experience thing.
Yes.
You see people like falling the herd off a cliff or doing the same crap. Being a loner that I am, I'm cool. I'm just gonna stay over here in my parking lot skateboarding while y'all idiots self-destruct, right? Yes. So greed, you know, it's really entrepreneurship and life in general, because we're all in a spiritual battle, man. Yeah, for sure. And how do you arm yourself with the right people, the right knowledge, books, whatever you choose. But there's in 2024, there's a plethora of information, whether it would be podcasts, books, Patrick Bet-David, the Bible, whatever you choose, Quran, whatever. You know, choose the right path, do the right thing.
And it's so funny, going back to your old story when you were in sports, you said you weren't very good with the team.
Terrible,
But it's like the team is so important.
That's the thing, right? Like I think I was getting at is I didn't know anything about being a team member. It's hard for me to be a team member. Yeah. But like you put a soccer ball in front of me, I'll go the other way. You put I'm going to take that shit head on. I'm going to try to score a goal. I'm going to try to dunk on you. I'm going to. So my sport is not in the realm of, you know, physical activity. My sport is winning at this. And I get my high from, you know, this is a high. When you chop this up, you know,
oh my God, man.
When I see my ugly mug on a screen or something, my big head, Charlie Brown head talking, I get a little high, man. It feels good. Yeah, man. You know, this is how I get high. Yes. And oddly enough, both my kids are great at sports, and I'll be at a game tonight, a volleyball game, and then I got to take my son to basketball practice, and my other son's on a travel soccer team. They excel at that stuff. It's funny how life works. Yeah. I have a great appreciation now of organized sports. But it wasn't me. I wasn't ready. Like my kids, because they have a different life, I guess, that my wife and I have provided, they're making great relationships, great bonds. And I think I wasn't able to, like, because of all the chaos surrounding me, I wasn't able to make those bonds. And quite frankly, if you really want to ask, I was probably jealous of a lot of the people, the captain of the team, and I just I don't want to fucking deal with you guys, right? Because I'm not there. I'm not ready. I can't be there. And they're there, which feels good. So, you know, they're on their own journey. But I do see a tremendous value in team sports now, and where I was anti. But again, like, you know, we all have like the devil angel, like your hater. There's a hater. appreciative guy, and I think there's a society or just general, you know, you can become a hater easily, and it's a temptation that we need to fight. And curiosity is important when it comes to like why people are beating you as well, instead of like trashing somebody. And I think what they should do is why is this guy beating me instead of hating on him?
Yeah, 110%. And going back to the discipline, something that I've noticed when I was younger, I was very undisciplined. Distractions were there, but for some odd reason, when the discipline got enhanced, the distractions only grew more. Have you ever noticed that? Because within me, it's not hard to say no, because I know that I'm better when discipline is in my life. If I go that route where things are going to be detriment to my life, it is very, very easy to say no.
When you get a little bit more means, you can go out to eat more, you can hang out with, you know, you get like my kids go to private school, and like, you know, there's parents that are a lot better means than I'll come to the country club or whatever, and then they're drinking every weekend. And so I dude, like whatever I portray, I as much, if not more, internal struggles. I wake up every day feeling like shit, meaning not physically. Like I wake up like the devil or whoever, there's some negative entity that's attacking me, right?
Yes.
And I default to habits that take me away from that. You know, like for me, it's very structured, fortunately, because of my family. The kids, one's got to be in Monterey, one's got to be there, so it's off to the grind. You know, drink a bunch of water, you know, hydrate myself, have my coffee, you know, little bit of Peloton bike to get the juices flowing, nothing too extreme, and then I'm off. Right? But it's more the mindset that I keep going. I push away that, and actually the business starts turning, the phone starts ringing, and it's been doing this so long. It's really my savior, right? Like once I start putting on the business hat, Kris, I really feel much better about myself. And like all that stuff goes away, but it's like this negative energy of self-doubt or attacking me of some situation, whether it's a mistake of like someone made at the stores, or someone should show up with the key, or, you know, I didn't pay my taxes or something, bad dream. Not saying we don't, because we always pay our taxes. We have those system done, but your mind will tell me you didn't pay your sales taxes last, and I wake up and it takes me 20 minutes to figure out, like, get awake and realize we did. So, you know, I think that really happens to anybody, especially they start getting a lot of responsibility on their plate. The discipline to have created like patterns and systems, and even if it's your daily routine, which everyone has like different daily routines, and I respect them all. But for me, getting up early and having like I use a Remarkable pad, and so anything that it's on my in the morning, I typically like write out a little power list, and to be honest, I'll stop doing that, and then my life starts getting like feeling out of control, and I quickly go back. Right? I guess I don't know the best analogy for that, but it's like my little my little regulator, right? It works so well because you're basically taking those stressors. It's like a computer. You have short-term memory on a computer and like your long-term memory. And you need to download all that short-term information. You need to put it into a spot where you know that you're going to go back. You've consistently and you've used discipline to go write in this book every day, a power list, all the stuff that's going on that you need to get handled. Once you build the confidence in yourself that you have the discipline to daily do that, and I like to get it done early. That way it's not bouncing in my head all day. That short-term memory is freed up. And then the negative thoughts tend to be less. You'll never get rid of them. But like it's habits like that have been very helpful. So like little power lists, stuff I want to get done today. And it's very simple. It happens with my car. It happens here at work. So it's really simple. I'm not dunking myself in Arctic water. Maybe I should. I got kids. There's a lot of the people I follow either have kids or don't. One of the major guys that I really respect, because there's a lot of alignment and the backstory, but they're farther ahead, which I appreciate. This particular individual, but they don't have kids, So it is a big factor in my life. There's, early on I would listen to Gary Vee, and he's like, yeah, the kids will be fine. Like, I'm work till midnight. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
It's important to me. Like, my family name they're the direct holders of my family name. There's a direct holders of my DNA. They're my legacy. So I'm not working till midnight. Yeah. I'm not going to miss a game to go to a business meeting. I'm just not going to do it. So I made that decision a long time ago that they're number one priority, and this comes second, believe it or not. And that may be not popular with some people to hear, but in the day when I am laying my head down to die, take my last breath, I will think about them instead of like this shit, right? Yeah. This shit has brought me where I can be a good father, and it's taught me the discipline. It's given me the respect in the community where, hopefully, my son is now 14 and he goes to like a school and he sees MaxFit hoodies and, oh, your dad owns MaxFit and all this stuff. Like that makes me feel really good. Because my dad, I was like, park me around the block, your dad's got the, rusty truck, right? Like whatever, and God bless his soul. But like, I want them to be like, have confidence or a little leg up in life out of being someone of respect, coming from a family of respect. And when they see their mother on TV, interviewed by the news about something at the hospital, sadly they're kind of used to it. They think that's normal. But to me, that was really important, and I'm not going to sacrifice that. But spin all this together, you got to have a positive routine that keeps moving the needle forward every day, and that more importantly allows you to download the stressors, the tasks that you need to get done. And as your life gets more complicated, the tasks kind of add up. And I carry this thing around with me, this remarkable book, and like anything I think of, it has different folders. Yes. I just download it to that, and then it gets done. So that really has been a really big helpful thing that I've done in the last 3 years. Powerless comes from Andy Frisella. So we can go on and on about our idols, our heroes. And Gary Vee, I didn't mean to trash Gary Vee. I think early on he was important to me. I think he's more like the cocaine of like motivation. Lately there's some stuff, the NFTs and all that, like sidetracked his reputation, I think, unfortunately. But the meat and potatoes were good, the hustle, like the stories of him delivering wine to a lady, Christmas Eve. That was important to me. I needed to hear that because I believe that as well.
Brother, my last question.
Sure.
Out of all the years that you've learned as being a father, a husband, entrepreneur, and businessman, what's probably the one biggest piece of wisdom that you would want to pass down?
That's a lot to unpack. I think never forget the why we're here, the why we're here in life. There's a lot of background noise in anyone's life. An entrepreneur, I think, is 10x the background noise. There's 10x the ability to get distracted. For me, if we're talking MaxFit Industries, what opened the door for the opportunity for me to come on your podcast, the why is the customer. Never forgetting the why and how to deliver the best product, how to stay in front of your customer, how to build a compassionate team, how to download that why to your staff, and just a deep understanding of the why you started this journey, why I started this journey. And the why for me was why I loved lifting weights, but I also loved helping people, and I'm a people pleaser, believe it or not. I want you to be happy. I want you to tell me that's the best smoothie you ever freaking.
Damn well, brother.
Right.
I'm telling you,
and
man,
I want you to don't bullshit me, man.
I'm not just because you're in front of me, giving me your time. I'm telling you, brother. That's the one thing I do not do.
It's my freaking why. Yes. So money's money. Money's like a fallacy. It's paper, but the why was everything we spoke about, man. But why is a singular word. Why is my reputation? Why is everything? So keep your focus on the original why. All the other stuff that you had to learn, some stuff changed you, some stuff toughened you, some stuff calloused you, some stuff tainted your soul, man, lost respect for humanity a little bit. Yeah. But the why is that there are still good people that need your help. They want your products. And I'm fortunate I got into a business that I could help people, and spreadsheets and profit margins and sales taxes and all this can take away from that. And I have to remind myself, and I'm reminding myself this year, it's the why. And I really do love my customers, and they're the reason I'm here. From the original people that bought that one product that I had, the last product on myself. It's the why. And for me, I'm taking more time to appreciate. I've never forgotten them, but I want to actually put face time to that and all that. So don't lose track of your why. I mean, that's the quickest way to the bottom, in my opinion. So
phenomenal, brother. Are there any closing statements you'd like to give for the podcast?
As in preparation for your podcast, I actually went and popped open a couple. Like my friend David was on one.
Yes.
Relatively new friend.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing of like, once you get a certain level of success, other people like me are guarded. Like you can't just get FaceTime with me because there's always someone who wants something. But I've been able to meet cool people because we share, we're equally yoked, right? And the responsibilities and the burdens and whatnot. But I actually was here a little bit later and I listened to several and I got a lot of value, man. I did. You brought people that are actually local to me, that are players, dude. They're bigger than me, right? Like you want to get big, you want to be a fighter, find the toughest guy. Yeah. I think you would agree, right? 110%. Go to the gym. Don't go to the guy who's got a fucking 10 knockouts, 0 wins, right? You want the badass. Bodybuilding, you want to be around the biggest. What's his secret? Like around these are individuals, in my opinion, I respect. There's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of chamber. There's a lot of fake entrepreneurs. There's a lot of, Andy, someone I do believe is very successful. There's other people that are fluff. Pat Bet-David, very successful. But these are people locally that have made it in Salinas. We understand the demographic. We understand the inner workings, the challenges that Salinas have. And you put them in front of my face or in front of my ears, in my mind, and I was able to really hear. So finishing off what I was trying to say, it's just keep doing what you're doing, because no matter where anyone thinks I'm at, I got tremendous value from it, man. And I'm thankful for that. If that's your why, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm telling you, that's what I got from it, and it was extremely valuable. And this podcast is not a fluff 20-minute thing. It pulls back the onion, and there's people that need to hear the brass tacks of life. So don't stop what you're doing.
No, man, and that's the why. Because in a world that's so filled with entertainment, I want to give value. That's it. And going back to
high valued podcast.
Oh man, and it's funny because when you were talking about the high. Like what gives you that high?
Sure.
Man, this is what gives me that high.
Sure.
Sitting with people who are at such high frequency, who can give me so much and I can take it into my day-to-day life. Brother, that is my high. That's why I'm so grateful for your time and your valuable time, my man, and then the wisdom and the value that you brought to me. Personally, thank you, brother. It was a true gift, my man. Thank you.
You're welcome, brother. Happy to do it, and it's mutual. So,
thank you all for tuning in to today's episode. If you got a lot of value out of this, please do me a favor and support our channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Make sure to hit that follow button on Spotify to stay updated with our latest episodes. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, I would greatly appreciate it if you would leave a 5-star rating, followed by with a review. Again, thank you all for the support. Stay loving, stay hungry, and stay excellent.